improbability argument in another way, and this is part 2 of my talk. There are a billion galaxies and a plausible number of planets. Think of the implications of that. The fact that there are so many planets in the universe, so many, more generally, so many opportunities for life to have originated, entitles us, if we need it, to postulate a theory of the origin of life which is just vanishingly, ludicrously improbable by the standards of human judgment of improbability. If the probability of life arising in the entire universe is so low that only one planet in the entire universe has life, that is an entirely plausible theory of the origin of life, because by the anthropic principle, since we're here, the one planet which has life has to be this one. We are entitled to postulate a theory of the origin of life which is so improbable, so unlikely, that it only gives rise to life on one planet in the entire universe. Now, I must stress, I don't think for one moment that life is as improbable as that. In other words, what I'm saying is that I think that there are islands of life dotted around the galaxy, dotted around the universe. Having said that, I must hasten to say that you cannot use that kind of logic to account for all the rich panoply of life as we know it. We have many millions of maybe 10 million species. And each one of those 10 million species, let alone all the ones that have gone extinct, each one of those 10 million species is making its living by detailed, exact, precisely engineered fits of animal or plant to environment. You cannot use the anthropic principle. You cannot use the improbability argument that I've just used for the origin of life. You cannot use that argument to account for all the species of life on Earth. You have to have something else, and that something else, of course, is evolution by natural selection. The reason you can't use the anthropic principle is that there are so many different species, they're all doing it in parallel. We have here an ongoing process of highly adapted fit between organism and environment. So you see what I'm moving towards, a combination of the anthropic principle, if we require it to account for the origin of life, plus natural selection, which is very much not the anthropic principle, plus natural selection to account for the detailed engineering of the goodness of fit of living things to the environment. Many physicists would accept that the fundamental constants of the universe could be regarded as fine-tuned. It looks as though we've got 6 knobs, 6 dials that you can twiddle. And it's as though somebody's come along and twiddled these 6 dials so that they're exactly the right value. If they were a tiny bit wrong, maybe there'd be nothing but hydrogen in the universe, and so you couldn't have chemistry. Or maybe there would be no hydrogen in the universe. So again, you couldn't have at least the sort of chemistry that, that gives rise to life. How do we handle this fine-tuning problem? Well, the God solution might occur to you. Maybe it was God who twiddled the knobs. Maybe it was God who fine-tuned the constants. As I've pointed out, that won't do, because we are left with the question, who fine-tuned God in the first place? There are other physicists, or there are physicists, who think there's not a problem at all, who would say something like, well, it's only our ignorance that makes us think that these 6 knobs are twiddleable. Maybe there's only one possible way for them to be. Maybe they're not independent of each other. Maybe they're sort of ganged up together in some way that if you twiddle one, they all go, or something of that sort. And so those are the physicists who say, well, we don't yet know enough. We're waiting for further knowledge, and when we have it, we'll understand. Then there's a third group of physicists, which are the ones that, with my limited understanding of physics, this is the one that appeals to me more. Maybe there are lots of different universes, and they all have different fundamental constants, slightly different from each other, and it may be that the vast majority of them have their knobs twiddled into the wrong position. But only a tiny minority have the knobs twiddled into the right position. And once again, the anthropic principle kicks in and says, of all those billions of different universes, a bubbled foam of universes, which have different laws and constants, it has to be one of the tiny minority that contains our universe, that is our universe, because, again, using the anthropic principle, here we are. So I'm building up a picture of the anthropic principle on 2 different levels: universe, planets, and then natural selection takes over. Now, I just want to finish by saying that this seems to me to be a very, very convincing and coherent and actually beautiful and elegant account of the origin of everything that we know. And elegance is what I would stress. The idea that something that you don't understand, you immediately say, oh, God did it, is not only logically flawed, but actually aesthetically offensive. I mean offensive in the sense that it subtracts from the beauty and the elegance of science, when we've got this wonderful theory for life, to then have to jettison all that and throw it away, having explained the origin of complexity and the beauty of life, to then say, oh, God did it. Because things like God, things that are complicated and capable of designing anything, have to come about by some explicable process. They come about late in the universe, not early. I've got to stop. Thank you very much.